pretty picture this weekend. Welcome to Sprint Saturday. Nine rounds ticked off, 13 to go, including this one, and they don't get much more iconic. The TT circuit Assen has been a staple on the MotoGP calendar ever since the championship's inauguration in 1949. And we have seen, heard and experienced just about everything possible at this legendary venue. We're counting down to the Tiso Sprint coming up at 3 o'clock local time. But between now and then, we've got the small matter of Moto3 and Moto2 qualifying. And of course, we get underway with the lightweight class. And what a crowd we have got in the house to enjoy it with. Q1 is coming up, meaning that just 4 places are up for grabs to move through and join the 14 riders already through into Q2 from practice. And there's some quite tasty names coming up in this next session, and it is so important because here at Assen, yes, we may well have big group races, but qualifying can decide, make or break your MotoGP weekend. The Dutch flags are flying high. The TT circuit Assen is gearing up for what is going to be a fantastic afternoon of MotoGP action. Coming up in this one, we've got a real star-studded lineup. Matteo Bertelli is the rider who narrowly missed out yesterday. He's ahead of Casey O'Gorman, Jesus Rios, Scott Austin, Zen Matani, Cormac Buchanan, Ruche Moodley, Joel Esteban, Veda Ega, Nicola Carraro, Leo Ramasdorfer, and the surprise in last place yesterday in practice, Valentin Peroni. Only 4 can make it through, and it's time to find out exactly who will be in the top 4 graduate places. You're in the company of myself, Kiko Giles. Lewis Sothery is next to me. Elliot York is in pit lane. I can't wait for this one, Lewis. Good afternoon.
Afternoon to you, Kiko. Afternoon to one and all watching around the world. Yeah, tasty Q1 session coming up, including the rider sick in the World Championship. It hasn't necessarily stopped Veda ega so far this season. Went through Q1 in Ereck and finishing in fifth place. Was knocked out in Q1 in Barcelona. Still came through to finish inside the top 7. So it's by no means panic stations for Veda ega, who is in this session by virtue of a crash in practice yesterday.
And last weekend, although he qualified 8th, he started way down on the 7th row of the grid, was straight into the top 6 in the opening laps in the lead group. Veda ega can come through if qualifying doesn't go his way, as can Casey O'Gorman. The problem that Casey has had is that actually it's not so much the speed, it's the staying on 2 wheels, Lewis. A few too many crashes in 2026, but he is a rookie and he's a fast one.
Yeah, fast but a little wary, hasn't he, in recent times, Casey O'Gorman, crashing out of the leading group in Brno. It was a fantastic leading group to watch with 2 rookies involved in it. Should have been 3 in the latter stages, unfortunately for O'Gorman. No fractures as a result of that crash, and we understand no further injuries done by his crash yesterday in practice. He will also be heavily favoured to come through this session.
Joel Esteban, for the 3rd time in 5 GPs, finds himself in Q1. And just to represent his roller coaster of a qualifying season a bit more, he's been a pole sitter over in Guyana. And I'm fairly sure he came through Q1 that day as well. So Joel Esteban, no stranger to the front of the grid, the back of the grid, and just about everything in between.
Yeah, that's his only Q1 success so far this season. His 2 other Q1 appearances have left him down in 20th place on the grid. Esteban, I guess, a surprise to come through this session. Both of the level of MTA KTMs are in this Q1 session. Matteo Bertelli is in this session too. He's also been on the floor so far this weekend.
And you could say that that crash over at Turn 1 yesterday was one of the reasons why he did find himself in this session, because it cost him right at the end of practice on Friday afternoon, hence why he's having to go through Q1. But he's one of the favourites to go through, as is Valentin Peroni. Veda ega, as you said, Lewis, is right up in the top 5 in the championship, so he should really be coming through. But who else? Who's the one rider who may well be able to make the difference? Who's the one rider who may well be a surprise to join them?
Well, the rider I'm going to be looking out for very closely in this session is Valentin Peroni for the Tech 3 KTM squad. He was last of all, down in 26th place at the end of a miserable practice session for the Argentine yesterday. No question Valentin Peroni has pedigree, because he was on the podium for the first time in his Grand Prix career here 1 year ago. I guess after the events of yesterday afternoon, the Oak quite literally is up.
really is. He can't get much lower, can he? Valentin Peroni, it is his first Q1 appearance of the year as well. So Valentin Peroni not used to having to fight it out and go for broke straight out the crate in qualifying in 2026, but that is exactly what he's going to have to do. Just some other riders I'd like to keep an eye on if I can. Casey Gorman, we spoke about him, he could well be one to move through. But likewise, Jesus Rios has had 3 front 2 row starting positions in the last 4 GPs. All of them were fit. So Jesus Rios really should expect to find himself moving through as well.
Hasn't missed Q2 since the Spanish Grand Prix at Jerez as Rios. That's not a run that he's going to want to end here this weekend. Here he is on the number 54. There was a school of thought that perhaps this Assen circuit might well be quite favourable to the Hondas coming into the weekend, and there were Hondas 1, 2 and 3 at the end of practice yesterday, and there are still a further 6 of them in this Q1 session. Rios, O'Gorman and Pratama surely will be heavily favoured to come through this session. As mentioned, Rios very good on Saturdays as of late, though didn't get his point streak extended last time in Brno when he missed out down in 17th place, feeling the effect of crashes earlier in the weekend.
Yeah, a few too many upside down moments for the number 54 last time out at Brno. I was just having a look through my own notes. Valentin Peroni's first Q1 appearance since Malaysia last year, so this is a real collector's item, not one that he'll want to be collecting too much often in 2026. Valentin Peroni, who, let's be fair, wasn't too bad this morning, but still, we know he's got a bit more than where he's been at so far this weekend. The 73 on your screen.
7th quickest this morning. He did improve by 1.4 seconds on what he did yesterday. Clearly not a straightforward session for Peroni because he's really a better rider than P26, so the second and a half of the pace. So we'll keep a close eye on the Argentine in this session as we now click forward. This is down through past the Wien-Schlang and into turns 6 and 7 with the 78 of Joel Esteban.
I was just about to say, one thing to keep an eye on here is going to be yellow flags and track limits. We've got yellow flags. This is over at turn 5 in its Rouge Moodley. The South African has gone down. I'm going to assume he has tucked the front there because normally that is exactly how it happens. A high side is possible, but he would not be probably up on his feet at this moment in time if so. It's very up and down at turn 5 by courtesy of the fact it's so slow. But that's a great shame for Rouge Moodley, who has shown plenty of promise and potential this weekend.
Yeah, let's have a look. He's well, he looked like he was a little offline coming into turn 5 there. He was certainly offline by the time the KTM came to arrest. He was in the gravel trap altogether. Yeah, as you say, he was super quick right from the get-go yesterday morning, but unfortunately his weekend appeared to have peaked in free practice 1. 21st at the end of play yesterday, and unless he can get that bike back up and running, he's going to be at the back of the grid tomorrow.
The good thing with where he's crashed is it's on the outside of turn 5, so if he needs to drag it through the gravel and then put it back in the paddock, it's pretty easy to do. And actually where the Moto3 tents are, particularly where the Coke Motorsport team are, it is, as you say, Lewis, right at the back of turn 5. Fastest lap time so far set by Indonesia's Veda ega, 41.170. Hiroshi Oyama there noting down that lap time with his pen and pad. He might well be scribbling it out very, very soon because that time is going to tumble, although that's pretty quick and pretty representative of exactly where we've been this weekend because it's been so warm, Lewis. We didn't see the usual massive improvement in yesterday afternoon's practice session.
Yeah, we haven't seen a single lap record broken so far this weekend in any of the 3 classes due to those scorching hot temperatures as this European heat wave continues. Along with yellow flags, as you rightly pointed out, which are going to play a clear role in this qualifying session. Track limits will as well. Without naming names, track limits played a key role in who qualified the pole position in MotoGP earlier on this morning. 2 key areas where we have seen riders seeing track limits through turn 13 through the Holgerheide corner. It's very easy to straight line that corner too much and clip the green, and then also coming out of the final Timmy chicane as you try and give yourself the straightest possible run to the finish line. You clip the green through there, your lap time will be cancelled.
That lap time by Veda ega 41.1 is 1.2 seconds quicker than what he managed yesterday, but not quite as fast as what he managed this morning. So plenty of time still left out there here at the TT Circuit's Assen. Your top 4 as things stand: Pratama, Peroni, Rios and Esteban, and we pick up the 78 pole sitter from Brazil now. He's trying to improve his lap time, he's trying to improve his position. Blast into the line through the GT chicane and across he goes, consolidates 4th at least for the time being. Where's Matteo Bertelli going? Fifth for him, and Jesus Rios is there in third and improving his time. Word up from pit lane is that Ruche Moodley has now got back into pit lane, so the bike is back with just under 10 minutes to go, and so is Ryder. Running up now, Veda Ega has just improved his lap time as well, a 41.090. So the track at the moment looking in good condition. That's the fastest time of his weekend so far.
Yeah, so Moodley will hoping that it's just cosmetic damage to his KTM. Was, as mentioned, a slow speed crash, one of the slowest corners of the Moto3 calendar. He's disproven. Turn number 5, the first left-hander after a sequence of rights in his first sector. Left-hander Scott Ogden is approaching now. Ogden currently holds the final place of the 4 that moved through to qualifying 2. Ogden on the back of his best weekend of the season so far in Brno last time.
Yeah, Scott Ogden was pretty all right last time out in Brno, and normally he doesn't go too badly around these. Only scored points on one occasion, I believe, looking back at it. But actually, to find him in Q1 was quite a surprise, Lewis.
Strong P7 for Scott Ogden here last season. He was in a good run of form, wasn't he, around that time? So he came off the heels of his start in Mugello, and it doesn't appear as if there is too much frantic activity going on there with the 21 Co-Motorsports KTM of Ruche Moodley. So the session is not over yet.
Worth noting for Scott Ogden, 3 straight point scoring finishes for the first time since last year, and that was part of a streak of 7. So, sorry, what he's aiming to do with 4 in a row is part of a streak of 7 that he did last year. So Scott Ogden, his 2026 form might not be anything to shout about, but he's slowly but surely getting back there. Talking of getting back, these guys are heading back into the pits. This is Veda Ega. He's got Zen Matani just behind him as well, I believe. So both the Honda Team Asia machines are rolling down pit lane, and at the moment Matani is there in 9th place. We're approaching half session distance. Matama, Peroni, Rios and Ogden, your front 4 going through. Ogden just 400ths of a second ahead of Casey Gorman, whilst Joel Esteban, Matteo Bertelli, Cormac Buchanan, Matani, Leo Ramasorfa, Nicola Carraro. There are your other riders with lap time. Ruche Moodley crashed, hasn't set a lap time yet, but don't worry about that, because the South African looks like he's going to be heading out very, very soon.
Yeah, confirmation well in pit lane, that he is on his way now back out of pit lane as the rest of the field will come into pit lane. Here is Veda Ega sitting very calmly in his chair. The Moto3 teams were paying attention last weekend in Brno. I think they'll be very clear this weekend not to sit on a 141.090. Patama will surely go out again. Marco Morelli was the rider last weekend, wasn't he? Guilty of being a little bit too confident doing it on one run, and it backfired spectacularly for the Argentine.
Yeah, not the first time we've seen riders dawdling either as well. We saw it last time, as you say, Lewis, back in Brno. We also saw it last in the Italian Grand Prix last month in Mugello. And Assen is a track where slipstream can help you, so don't be too surprised if in the last 6 or so minutes of this one we do see a few riders just hanging around on the outside of the racetrack looking for a bit of a slipstream, looking for a toe and that advantage that it brings, and then therefore don't be surprised to see some pencil sharpness coming out up in the MotoGP stewards room, because dawdling is very much frowned upon.
Cold towel there on the back of the neck of Scott Ogden. Speaking as a fellow Yorkshireman, I can say with certainty he won't have experienced temperatures like this many times before.
Well, we're on the same latitude as your hometown, Lewis, up here in Assen. It really is scorchio up here. Real feel of 40 degrees yesterday, and that was when we were leaving the track. The sun was beaming down right the way through. It was very, very hot when track activity was going on. But we do a few things up and down this paddock. I know both of us have got time in VIP Village, absolutely not as guests, but more so as speakers and presenters. And I was walking up there earlier yesterday morning, and it was pretty all right. In the afternoon and more towards the evening, it was so warm. So although the peak sun time normally is around 2 to 3 o'clock in the afternoon, it gets very, very toasty around 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock here. So maybe not something to affect track action, but just to put into perspective of how warm it is, it has been ridiculously warm. For sure, on the other side of the pond, not such temperatures over in Hull, even if the UK is experiencing a heat wave at the moment.
Yes, it is, and the temperatures are likely to cool off slightly for tomorrow, but they're still going to be around the 30-degree mark when Moto3 go racing tomorrow. As Scott Ogden looks like he's getting a little bit under the collar after his collar previously had that cold ice towel around it, as he wants to go with the rest of the group here and not get left behind. Ogden's not got a lot of space to play with here, has he? On the 141.794, he's just 400ths of a second clear of Gorman in fifth. Gorman, Esteban and Bertelli, 3 riders who are currently on the outside outside looking in who would expect to advance through this session.
Ogden looking to actually join Eddie O'Shea and make it 2 Brits up inside Q2, courtesy of Eddie O'Shea's fantastic Friday performance yesterday. Let's just cross down to pit lane. Al, have you got an update?
Yeah, no, I was just standing outside O'Shea Moodley's box. Good afternoon to everyone tuning in. Not too much damage for the South African fans, and the South African, of course, aiming to get his first time in. It was just out-of-body damage, changed the fairing. They did actually were able to go and send him out initially, and then they started changing the fairings again. So fingers crossed for Moodley, all is okay. But the bike didn't look too damaged at all, as you guys mentioned. It was a slow enough off at turn 5. So fingers crossed for the South African to get a couple of laps in here and try and get into the top 4.
Cheers for that, Al. The thing that Rouchet Moodley is now up against is everyone else has had one crack at this already, Lewis. They've already got one run in. This is Rouchet Moodley's first real run, so it's a little bit behind the ball. If he can get in the top 4 from here, shows he's got some pace left in the locker for Q2.
Yeah, Moodley is in the 3rd section at the moment, and he has found himself with the rest of the group. That's his teammate Cormac Buchanan directly up ahead. So there are a combination, a bit of a mixture here of riders on out laps and riders on hot laps, as we see a variety of lines taken back in the picture. Bettelli focusing on his own work, and at the moment, halfway around the lap, it's a pretty competitive lap as he now comes out of the Muivenmere corner, or goes through it now. Turn 12, we'll find out whether his 3rd section has been quick, and it's been very quick.
Bettelli working on his own has been a bit of a theme in 2026. Remember, it got him in at Magello when everyone else was playing chicken with a ticking clock. So just keep an eye on Matteo Bettelli here. Not only is he looking to move into the top 4 and dispose of Scott Ogden, he may well be pushing Jesus Rios into that rider at risk zone. Bettelli across the line goes 2nd and just misses out from P1 by 21 thousandths of a second as everyone else comes across the line. O'Gorman has gone in as well there. Joel Esteban only good enough for 6th place, but Casey O'Gorman, good work on his first blind lap in this 2nd run to move through into 4th place. This lap has gone away from him, courtesy of him running out onto the curbs, and he keeps out of harm's way as on the outside of Osserbrook in turn 3 and 4.
No improvement for Esteban on that lap, no in terms of position, that's why he's 6th. No improvement for Rios either, so that's cost him a place at the moment in the top 4. There he is on the 54 ahead of Peroni, who at the moment is going to rescue his weekend to a certain extent by getting himself out of these choppy waters at 4th line. 1/3 at the moment on a 1:41.303. He's saved by 2/10.
Emphasis on that at the moment, Lewis, because he's safe by 2/10, but everyone else is picking the pace up somewhat at the moment. Joel Esteban is the pace setter, and he is looking to try and move through. He's at the head of this group, as I say, but he's looking to try and move through. So far, not good enough through the opening half of this lap. Scott Ogden, very much good enough at the moment. He's in this group. He's got Jesus Rios just up ahead of him, but the number 19 with the pink number 19 pink crash helmet on your screen, looking good halfway round this lap. Let's see if he encounters problems when slipstream comes into play in the 2nd half of this lap here at Assen.
Yeah, fortunately for Ogden, this whole group are pushing. There's no one here on outlap, so no one's going to be backing off, no one's going to be rolling off or getting in the way, so he'll just get dragged along with the train at the moment as he ducks underneath. But Rios there through turn 12, a strong 3rd sector for the Yorkshireman.
And also for the New Zealander, Cormac Buchanan, who is estimated likewise to go P1 at the moment. Ogden is under though by more, so let's have a look at Scott Ogden. Gets into the Gert Timmer chicane, hopefully keeps it clean. Oh, Cormac Buchanan has gone down into the gravel and he's not happy. Ogden goes P1, and that is going to put him into Q2. So Scott Ogden, or as he should be called here in the Netherlands, Scott Clogden, has gone up into P1 ahead of Veda Patama, Matteo Bettelli and Valentin Peroni. Cormac Buchanan is fuming, and that is because he was trying to come through on Jesus Rios. That was up at the inside at the final chicane. Whether he's fuming with Rios or himself, we'll have to wait and see. But Cormac Buchanan's session has ended at the very best of 10th place. That is a disaster, Lewis.
Tell you with certainty, Kiko's been saving that up for weeks, and he picked his moment with aplomb into the final chicane. It's fair to say that Cormac Buchanan didn't pick his moment. He dives on the inside of Jesus Rios, who wasn't exactly on a slow land, but perhaps had rolled off slightly, having been picked up by Ogden a couple of corners earlier. Buchanan, of course, in that sort of situation, going for Q2 places, he had to lunge up the inside of Rios. He had to keep pushing, and he clearly feels that the Spaniard has done his cause. No help at all.
Yeah, the other thing with Cormac Buchanan is that he's almost not giving himself enough room to build into there, and I understand his frustration. He's got to go for that move, otherwise he's going to be balked in the middle of that chicane. So hard luck for Cormac Buchanan. He's going to be 24th on the grid at best, but have a look at this. Zen Matani and Veda Patama. At the moment, Patama is okay in 2nd place. There's one rider out there who may well just be able to have a say. 3 red sectors and a 10th under. Casey O'Gorman is going gangbusters here. We're going to take Matani to the checkered flag here. The checkered flag is already out. Matani improves, but not by enough. Goes 6. Casey O'Gorman is in the final sector. Let's have a look at the number 67 on the 658 Squadron Caution machine. He's right up behind Jesus Rios. Is it going to be enough for the top 4? Casey O'Gorman. Oh, it's enough for P1. Ireland from the UK. They are going through into Q2. Casey O'Gorman saves it very, very well. And the big casualty, Lewis, Valentin Peroni is not moving through out of Q1 at the circuit where he took his maiden podium here last year. Valentin Peroni is 19th and on the 7th row of the grid. What a disaster for the Argentine.
Unforgiving session, super close. A 10th of a second covered the top 5 riders, and the rider on the outside looking in, the rider without a chair to sit in when the music stopped, was Valentin Peroni. A 1:41.156 was not enough to move through. Peroni ahead of Mitani, who was helped there without question. His teammate Veda ega was towing him around for the first 3/4 of that lap and then released him into the Ramshook. So Mitani did at least get 6th in that session. Rios will be disappointed with 7th, so too Esteban 8th. He'll be down in 22nd on the grid. Moodley did at least get himself up 3 places. It would have been last on the grid. He at least outqualifies Ramstorfer, his cross-teammate Cormac Buchanan, and Nicola Carraro, another miserable qualifying for the Italian, who's last.
That is the first time that Jesus Rios is down where he is and not into, well, he's not moved through into Q2 since he was 19th for his home race in Andalusia. That was over in Jerez, of course, for the Spanish GP. So Jesus Rios' strong qualifying form has come to an abrupt halt, which will be very frustrating for Rios because I think he has got something in the locker this weekend, but we've got to remember that it is his first time here to Assen, and if you haven't got previous reference up at World Championship level, it can be a pretty scary circuit to hit the ground running with.
That's a good point, Nance. Rios is not a former Red Bull rookie. They did previously come here in 2024, but Rios not a part of that championship, not a former alumni, but has got himself 21st on the grid. He can go racing from there and chase down the points. And well, Veda ega, who generally peaks on Sunday, doesn't he, in Grand Prix weekends, he's still got himself at least with a theoretical chance of qualifying for a couple of rows on the grid.
We have seen riders come through Q1 before and go on to get that front row and even pole position. This is not going to be one of them. Valentin Peroni, well, he's just not with it at the moment, is he? The form book that Valentin Peroni came into 2026 with and started 2026 with, Lewis. He was on the first podium of the season, but it has not translated and he's gone back to Europe.
It has been a good weekend overall for the Tech 3 squad in Moto3 so far, as we'll explain shortly in Moto3 qualifying 2. His teammate has penalties to serve in tomorrow's Dutch TT. But for MTA, bittersweet qualifying 1. Esteban missed it out 8th place. Vitelli, though, squeaking through by 4/100ths of a second. The Italian taking 4th.
We're having a look at Casey O'Gorman, probably explaining exactly what it's feeling like out there at the moment. That's his dad, John O'Gorman, just up at the top of the screen. So Casey O'Gorman gives 658 some representation over in Q2 later coming up, and look at that fastest lap right at the end of the session of 41.051. We were with him watching it at the time. Casey O'Gorman leading the charge. You can see all the umbrellas up. You can tell that there's no rain in the air, judging by the lack of attire by some members of the grandstand, but normally umbrellas in Assen just means it started raining, but it's literally, and I quite mean literally, for the sun. It's so strong.
Yeah, if you were with us at the crack of dawn, no pun intended, in Moto3 free practice 2, you'll know we have seen a little bit too much skin from the fans in the grandstands this week.
Yes, putting the ass into Assen, I think it would be fair to say earlier on. But qualifying 1 done, O'Gorman leading Ogden through.
Yeah, definitely didn't end on a bomb note for Casey O'Gorman in qualifying 1. He tops the session from Scott Ogden, Veda ega and Matteo Bertelli. Less than a 10th cover, the 4 of them. Valentin Peroni a 10th off top spot, but only 5th. Mitani, Rios and Esteban next up. Ruche Moodley, after an early crash, 9th, ahead of Leo Ramastorfer, Cormac Buchanan, who crashed at the final chicane, and Nicola Carraro, who is off the pace 3 seconds back in 12th. So Casey O'Gorman keeps himself in the hunt. The battle for pole position in Moto3. 18 riders going for pole. Q2, Moto3 on the way next.
56 lightweight class pole sitter since records began at Assen. 58 lightweight class winners at the Cathedral, but we'll be bound to have a new one this weekend at Assen, and a new winner as well. Nobody on the grid with any previous pole setting or race winning experience. Q1 is in the books, and we are gearing up for Q2 here at what is a sun-drenched crowd here in Assen. Without a doubt, the hottest GP we've had. I can tell you that in this session coming up, we are going to have an absolute riot. Casey O'Gorman taking P1 there in Q1 ahead of Scott Ogden. Whilst that falling by the wayside, Valentin Peroni unable to move himself out of Q1 and into Q2 at the very circuit where he was on the podium at earlier on in his career. His first ever Moto3 podium came here in 2025. But leading the way in all of it in practice yesterday, we had a Honda 1-2-3, and with a Honda moving through from Q1 straight into Q2, it may well be the Japanese manufacturer that have been sandbagging something in this weekend here at the Dutch TT. Hashtag TT Assen. It looks absolutely brilliant. The sun is shining, the crowd are loving it, and we have definitely got something special lined up. Joel Kelso, Guido Pini and Eddie O'Shea were your fastest three yesterday, ahead of Marco Morelli, Adrian Cruces, Enrico Salmella, Alvaro Carpe, David Almanza, Marcus Uriarte, who is in for the injured David Munoz there in 9th place, Brian Uriarte in 10th. Max Gielers, your championship leader, was 11th ahead of Ryusei Yamanaka and his teammate and our most recent Grand Prix winner Hakim Danish, whilst Adrian Fernandez scraped through in 14th. O'Gorman and Ogden, as I say, joining them, as well as Veda Patama, who's 5th in the championship, and Matteo Vitali, who has had poles before. You're in the company of myself, Kiko Giles. Lewis Sotheby is next to me. Elliot York is in pit lane, and I think Elliot has got a special guest. El, who have you got?
I certainly have. Good afternoon to everyone just tuning into the Q2, and I'm pleased to be speaking to Jordi Gattel here from the MT Helmets team, MSI. Look, Jordi, what a weekend it was in the Czech Republic. Last weekend, only one place to start with Hakim. I know he's not looking quite as quick this weekend, but just your reaction and how the last few days have been after Hakim's brilliant debut victory in Moto3.
Yeah, for sure. We started our project with Hakim 3 years ago. 2 years, we spent 2 years in the Junior GP just to help them to understand the mentality, Latin mentality, and to try to be as much strong as they can. This year they are showing us an incredible potential. Working with a team that they have, we currently have a lot of experience, and we are helping them. But anyway, he has the talent, and it's for that reason that they are battling for winnings, making podiums, and the last race for sure they won the race, and we are really proud.
What's impressed you most about Hakim so far this season? Obviously got his debut podium over Mugello and then won last time out. I think higher expectations than anyone could have imagined so far in the early part of his season, but what's been the most impressive thing?
Yeah, the most impressive thing is that they are very fast in the speed course. They have a lot of speed in the fast corners. It's really impressive because we are sharing, or we are seeing all the data from very strong riders like Moreira, Ortola, Piqueras, and they are even more fast, and that means that it's really difficult to do this speed corner. But for me, the key is that he's very clever. It is a worker, and they trust a lot on the in the team, and also the team is pushing to Hakim a lot, and we are doing a good mix.
You certainly are. This weekend, a different type of circuit to Brno. How is Hakim doing this weekend? Maybe not quite as confident, but still straight into Q2. And do you reckon he can be in the podium mix tomorrow?
We will see. It's not our challenge, but he is doing a good job again this weekend, riding along a lot. They understand in which point of the circuit they must improve, and that's the way to prepare next year. That probably next year we will be a title contender. Why not?
Yeah, for sure. And on the other side of the box, we'll just wait for the riders to go out. Ryusi and Hakim going out together here for the start of the session. Ryusi straight into Q2 yesterday afternoon. Obviously, it's been a bit of a struggle this year for Ryusi. What's been going on, and how is he feeling this weekend?
Yes, about Ryusi, we are
damage to Elliot York and Jordi Cattell. Great to have that insight from down there in pit lane. We had a very, very quick look at the graphic. I've got to say, there are no changes up here in the broadcast team. Obviously, me and Lewis are still up here. Elliot York down there in pit lane, bringing all the big stories. But there is one small change in this session coming up, and it in fact impacts this session directly. It is that David Almanza's teammate for this weekend is once again Marcus Uriarte, because David Munoz, number 64, is out injured and recovering, and that paves the way for the number 88 of Marcus Uriarte to join his cousin Brian Uriarte in Q2 directly via practice.
Yeah, Marcus was the quicker of the two cousins yesterday in practice. There was less than a tenth between them in pre-practice 2 this morning, when Brian got the better of Marcus, but there was expectations of 18 and 19 when they were earlier on today. Marcus, I thought, did a solid job as the substitute for Munoz back in Renault. He was in that second group that were battling for 7th, 8th, 9th and backwards. 13th in the end for Uriarte. That's means in both of his substitute appearances for Intact this year, he has scored points.
One rider to keep an eye on based on this morning was Adrian Cruces. Cruces was fast yesterday, but he was also very, very fast this morning. So keep an eye on the number 11. He's never been to Assen before, which makes this even more impressive. That not only he's passed straight through into Q2, but he's actually topped a session this weekend this morning.
Taking no prisoners, just asked Guido Pini of that earlier on today at the Ramshock during pre-practice 2. Cruces is just second in picture behind Carpe. They're third in your picture now as we pick up Brian Uriarte just ahead of them on the racetrack. So 2 Ripple IO KTMs. We've also got 2 CIP Green Power KTMs with Q1 graduate Casey O'Gorman also in the middle of them.
Should also say that it was second this morning for Adrian Cruces. He was actually directly behind the rider he's directly behind on track now, Alvaro Carpe, who was fastest on Saturday morning, fastest on Friday morning as well. So Alvaro Carpe in this session directly as well, courtesy of a top 10 yesterday in practice, and looking to try and bag pole position to give himself a great fighting chance of a first career win. We pick up Max Quiles. He's just coming through turn 9, and now he's firing up towards turn 10. He crashed here earlier on. He'll be a bit more cautious, at least on this first flying lap this time around, to make sure he gets a banker in.
It's been a bit of a jinx for that corner, hasn't he? Crashed out of the race there last year at turn 10, one of the few non-scores of Max Quiles' rookie season. But generally, when there are knockbacks for Max Quiles, and there haven't been many, let's face it, in his Grand Prix career, he tends to bounce straight back. Let's see if he can do that this afternoon.
Worth noting that one more point-scoring finish from Max Quiles is a new lightweight class record as well. He's already got the Moto3 outright record, but looking at the lightweight class in all of its forms, the previous record was 26, and that is Kazuto Sakata back in the mid to late 90s. He's on 26 at the moment, one more, and he is going to be right there. Time's coming in. That's a brilliant lap time from Joel Kelso. As you say, Lewis, fastest of the weekend, 1:40.559 for the Australian, who was going brilliantly yesterday in P1. He's doing the same again this afternoon, and he's right there ahead of Veda ega. He's obviously a Q1 graduate, and Alvaro Carpe third at the moment ahead of O'Gorman.
So we've got Hondas first, second and fourth at the moment. Kelso, Pratama and O'Gorman. The one Honda at the moment on the front row is Alvaro Carpe. Yeah, definitely this faster flowing circuit without the heavy braking and acceleration does bring the Hondas a little bit more into play versus the KTMs. Here is David Almanza, the recent king of qualifying, looking to extend this extraordinary recent streak. He's chasing a 4th consecutive pole this afternoon.
Only Jorge Martin has managed to get 4 on the spin or more. And he did that twice, both back in 2018, if I'm not mistaken. So Jorge Martin, 4 poles in one streak, 5 in the other, and it was indeed 2018, and the record of 5 in 2017. So Jorge Martin, been a long time since someone's had that kind of qualifying prowess and performance. David Almanza at the moment in 10th place after his first flying lap, but you can expect him to rise up the order as this session wears on. 10 minutes on the clock and counting down.
Has been on the floor this weekend, has Almanza. Crashed at Harbot the first corner yesterday afternoon in practice, as Pini is looking to do what was done to him earlier on in free practice by lunging up the inside of the Ramshock. Here comes Quiles looking to lift himself up from 13th place, but only up 2 places, still outside the top 10.
I think Pini can show his version to Adrian Cruces and say, that's how it's done, mate. Pini to the line, his first flying lap done, 12th place for him. Matteo Vitelli crosses the line, 17th for him, but does improve on that time. David Almanza, we jump on board with him now, looking very, very good through the opening 2 sectors of this racetrack. He's in touch, 41 thousandths out at the moment. He's working his way through turns 10 and 11. Now he's coming through down towards Movenmere, this fast right-hander flat out on a Moto3 bike, and he's just over a quarter of a second, just over 3.5 tenths of a second off. He's not going to improve this time around. Fernandez under Morelli, that's going to cost both of them a little bit of time.
Yeah, Morelli was on a personal best. Morelli through the qualifying 2 automatically as he now fights back there. It looked like he's back on the inside of Fernandez into the Gertner chicane, so it's entertaining but not particularly constructive between this pair. Let's see what it does for them, 4th and 5th respectively, with Fernandez just ahead of the Argentine.
Did well to improve their lap times there. I was quite surprised. Almanza likewise improved his place. He's there in 6th place at the moment, just half a second off the fastest time of the weekend, set by Joel Kelso on that 140.5. Worth noting, Lewis is still nowhere near the lap record set by set by Colin Vire here in 2024. He was down in the 39s.
Yeah, the hot temperatures having an effect on all of us. It's having an effect on the bikes, the tyres, and indeed on the grip that's coming up from the track surface. All of those things contributing to some slightly slower lap time. But Kelso won't care. 40.5 is good enough for pole position, because that's currently where he is sitting. Quiles is building and building. This is the 3rd consecutive lap for the World Championship leader, and the 3rd consecutive improvement. He now joins his teammate on row 2.
Yeah, slightly out of kilter in comparison to some of the other riders out there. A lot of them doing 2 laps and coming in. Quiles has gone for 3. We jump on board with Alvaro Carpe as he leaves now to head out on that 2nd run. He's just behind O'Gorman and ahead of teammate Brian Uriarte. Carpe at the moment 3rd, Uriarte 9th, and O'Gorman yet to set a lap time. Probably just saving a tyre there, Lewis, down at the very bottom of the timing tower thus far.
Yeah, he had done 3 laps, so clearly there was a time lap from O'Gorman, but clearly he must have exceeded track limits in the process, which is why we don't have the lap time next to his name at the moment. There's some Q2 final run tactics potentially going on, or is Joel Kelso just having a Saturday afternoon chat? He does look a little relaxed, doesn't he, there in the pit lane, chasing a first pole position. Joel Kelso, first front row, of course, into Mugello earlier in the year, but his last pole position was Portimao at the back end of last season. This would be his first pole on board a Honda.
It would be indeed, and it would be as well Michael Laverty's team's first pole position as well, but we'll have to wait and see at the checkered flag whether any of those things stay true. Kelso, obviously no stranger to pole positions before. He's had 3 of them in Moto3, but all on KTM machinery, as you said, Lewis. Right, everyone else coming back out onto track. Marcus Uriarte, Marco Morelli, Najan Fernandez just ahead of David Almanza as they work their way, back into pit lane, of course, because the tents are right at the far end of pit lane. Let's just cross down to pit lane if we can, because I think El has got a bit of an update for us. El, take it away.
Yeah, no, I was just standing down there at the grid MLAV box, or box you can call it, the Saturday pit lane, of course. Kelso looking supremely confident, nice, cool, calm and collected. O'Shea came in and was talking about something on the front end, not feeling quite right. So they've changed the front mudguard and a couple of other bits on the front end of O'Shea's bike. I can't see where he's on the standings, guys. You can tell them more. 16, thank you, Lewis. So yeah, Eddie O'Shea not quite happy with something on that front end. Not sure what, but hopefully, fingers crossed, it improves for O'Shea in the final run of the session.
O'Shea was up in the top 3 yesterday. Cheers for that update, El. Yeah, 3rd yesterday for Eddie O'Shea in Friday afternoon's running, and really one of his best sessions, if not the best session of his entire season for Eddie O'Shea. So let's hope that 16th place is not where he's rooted to in this one.
Out of the struggle we come then with Alvaro Carpe. Into the pits we come with Max Quiles. 5th wouldn't be a disaster, would it, given that it has been, I guess, a trickier weekend for Quiles. 6th and 5th at the moment for the Aspar pair, with Morelli, of course, after his miserable qualifying, which really did destroy his weekend last time out in Brno. Had to taste a much higher field than that. At the moment, he's on a row 2 balls after him. Fernandez, who we just saw, and I have to say, it would be nice to see Fernandez back up there after a recent tough run, which hasn't all necessarily been his fault. Of course, major blow to the morale and confidence after losing the big chunk of his results. He did say coming into this weekend, didn't he, Fernandez, that we're not going through an easy time at the moment. Maybe some signs of light at the end of the tunnel for Andrea at last.
Yeah, I was chatting with a few people within the team this weekend, and it seems that very much the the phrase more together than ever is exactly what it is like down there at Leopard Race. And of course, if you haven't been with us for the last few rounds over in Balaton Park, there was a big disqualification handed the way of Adrian Fernandez for basically illegal engines. Let's phrase it like that. The full story is out on Moto3 Let's not get into it now, but all of the first 6 rounds rendering pointless for Adrian Fernandez. That is a brilliant lap time, going up to P1 for Brian Uriarte. So Uriarte, who is in some good form, poles, podiums and a win in the last few GPs, is now on course for another pole position. Casey O'Gorman, I've got to say, set his first lap time of the session. That put him on the back of the 4th row in 12th.
Did love Uriarte's comments after his podium battle last weekend. Of course, finished second after crash tracking his way into the final corner in that battle with Quiles, Almanza, Carpe and Pratama last weekend. He said, I was thinking about the fans having fun watching this at home. Speaking on behalf of us from a commentary box, we were enjoying it an awful lot, Brian.
Yeah, you speak for everyone there, Lewis, because it was an absolute corker of a battle. True Moto3 at its very, very best, and more of the same tomorrow is undoubted, because here at Assen, if anything, it's a bit scary coming through the final sector here when it's all flat out and gangbusters on the final lap. 4 minutes left in this Q2 session.
Scary there for Pratama. The front end was chattering away round turn 7. Not a corner you want to crash at. There are a few you do like to crash at around this circuit, as we mentioned earlier on. It looks like Carpe was a bit wide there, and it's important there for Pratama to duck up the inside move because he's on a very fast lap. Crucially, Pratama did make that move.
Good move for Pratama. They come through 11 and wind the wick on now, and he goes out over the curves. That's going to really wreck his lap. Coming through, it's all getting a bit too tight for my liking in qualifying as Alvaro Carpe bunny hops his way back onto the track. O'Gorman charges under Uriarte as well. Of course, these two are ex-rivals from Red Bull rookies and, of course, Junior GP. And now O'Gorman round the outside. So 2 in 2 corners, one up the inside, one down the outside. Casey O'Gorman is not lacking in the minerals department. Coming to the line of 67, goes 6. Brilliant stuff. Imagine what you can do with a clean lap, Lewis.
Up ahead of the World Championship leader as Pratama dishes out some return punishment there into hard block. This time, of course, it's Pratama who's looking to push on. All sorts of chaos going on that lap. Uriarte, Pratama and Carpe all making a complete mess of it.
Brian Uriarte it is with 2.5 minutes on the clock, following Veda Pratama, but leading the entire field in the timing tower. Third for Pratama, as we said. Kelso splits both of them. Carpe at the head of the 2nd row. Fernandez 5th. O'Gorman moved up to 6th, as we said. Championship leader Max Quiles, bit of work to do for the 28 at the moment. 7th for him, ahead of teammate Morelli. Almanza, your pole hound of recent rounds in 9th, and Adrian Cruz says fastest in many sessions so far, many sectors so far this weekend. Only 10th at the moment.
Yeah, it looks from that shot like we've got Carpe making a move. In fact, it's of course O'Gorman attacking further back. We have got the vast majority of the field currently on out laps. Only Pratama, Ogden and Uriarte are on live laps at the moment. So if you're working out or you're wondering where Max Quiles is and what he's up to at the moment, he's just coming up to start his what will be his final time lap of the session.
Yeah, 1 minute 40 to get round here, 1:45 and counting down left on the clock. Scott Ogden, he's coming through the 3rd sector, just 4 tenths off at the moment. This would put him right up into the top 10, but he's lost a bit of time in that 3rd sector. We're on board with Uriarte as these guys fly on through. This is Ramshoek, this fast left-hander, building all the time. Short burst of power, down into the GT chicane. Uriarte it is who has track position over Pratama at the moment. We are coming down to the last 60 seconds. This lap is not going to improve for Brian Uriarte. Maybe behind though an improvement for Scott Ogden. No, it doesn't look like it. Looks like it's all gone awry in that final sector.
I saw someone ducking on pit lane. I don't know whether that was Carpe or O'Gorman who went on pit lane there, but one of them has suddenly come in. Must be Carpe there because O'Gorman is still on the racetrack approaching turn 1. So Brian Uriarte, who might be looking to improve himself in this final minute, I think he might spend a lot of this final minute of the session glancing at the big screens.
Red sector alert though, because we've got Cruces, Yamanaka, Almanza, Quiles, of course, you never discount him, and Marco Morelli, all under by a few thousandths of a second, coming through sector 1. We are jumping on board now with David Almanza. This is Steckenbauer asking for the power, run it right out to the edge of the curve, coming through down towards the hard braking area of turn 9. Almanza is the pace setter in this group. He's got Marco Morelli right behind, but we're talking fine margins, Lewis.
The rider I think that we should be keeping a very close eye on is Cruces. He's right behind Quiles. Here we picked them up. Cruces was the fastest of all of them through the 1st sector of the lap. Carpe has called it a session. He will not improve on 4th. He might be shuffled back a couple of rows on the grid yet.
Yeah, he'll be very lucky to hold on to that second row placing at the moment. Joel Kelso is up 3 sectors into this. This could all change. Rico Salmella's looking to try and come through on Hakim Danish, but he can't, and that is also going to squander Ryusei Yamanaka's lap. Kelso makes the move. He had to make that move as they come through the chicane then. This is it, the battle for pole. Kelso, is he going to get there? Yes, he is, provisionally.
Keyless.
No, he's not, because Keyless has got there as well. The championship leader saves it on his knee for a pole position in 2026's Dutch GP. Max Keyless has learned from his errors of past weekends in qualifying and is going to leave the field down towards Harbach tomorrow. Kelso denied, second place for him in the grid racing team, and Brian Ariarte completes the front row.
Took a special lap back from Max Keyless because Kelso down to a 40.1 wasn't enough in the end. Second pole of the season for Max Keyless. Ariarte in the end bumped back a couple of spots to third, and his teammate Carpe being in the pits at the very end, it did ultimately cost him 4 places. He dropped in the end behind Morelli 4th, Cruz says 5th, but Adrian Cruz says that is the best qualifying of his Moto3 career. Almanza 6th, and Fatama and Carpe in the end, who were on the front row for much of that session, bumped to the third row.
Good to see Guido Pini back inside the top 10. Likewise, Leopard Racing having both of their bikes inside the top 10. So 9th and 10th for them. Marcus Uriarte was there in 11th. Eddie O'Shea got himself onto the front 5 rows of the grid there in 15th placement. Your winner from last time out, Hakim Danish, well, he had to come from 14th. Now he's going to have to come from 16th. What are we seeing here? Oh, dearie me. Scott Ogden and Alvaro Carpe at odds. I don't think Ogden realised just how close Carpe was. Well, more on that in a moment. Let's get down to pit lane. Al, who have you got?
Got Nicky Io, gents. Nicky, on one hand, a great front row for Brian. Other hand, not quite the front row you were looking for Alvaro. He pulled back into pit lane there. Was there any issues?
I think he just made a mistake on that lap and then couldn't really find the spot to exit to the last lap. So he decided to pull in just in case, because it's always a little bit risky if you're waiting or something like that. But yeah, of course, unfortunate for Alvaro, but yeah, I think on the other hand, we tried to work as a team, which for me is always positive. Obviously didn't work out for one rider, but still for me it's a positive outcome, and I believe both riders are strong tomorrow, so hoping for the best.
Thank you, Nicky.
Thank you.
1 second in the end, covering your top 15 riders on the grid, of which both of the IO KTMs absolutely are. They're both in the top 8. Uriarte on your screens in 3rd. Carpe there in 8th. Lewis, tomorrow we are expecting a massive group anyway, so the fact that one's on the front row, one's on the 3rd, it's probably all going to be a little bit out the window by the end of lap 1.
Yeah, it's going to be a frenetic battle into the Timmy chicane, and we're hoping and expecting to the 20th and final trip through that Timmy chicane on the final lap tomorrow. Marco Morelli, well, that's much more like it from a qualifying point of view. Did recover from 27th last weekend, but he finds himself qualifying on the front of the second row. That's his best qualifying since his second home Grand Prix in Barcelona around about a month and a half ago.
Indeed, and I actually reckon that is his best qualifying overall. So, yeah, equals it, as you said. Yes, it equals it in Barcelona. So, very good stuff indeed from Marco Morelli, just chasing that first front row, but we know he's a bit more of a Sunday rider, isn't he? On the other side of the box, they can be very, very happy, because Max Keyless has put away any doubts that qualifying perhaps isn't his strong points, of course. Max Keyless has had poles before, including this year, which he won from. That was Jerez. So keep an eye on Max Keyless in qualifying. He might not be the strongest, but he's got it done today, and I think we can hear from someone down in the team. Al, what have you got?
Yeah, Danny with Nico. So Nico's super quick. A reaction to that, it feels like a really big pole for Maximo, that.
Yeah, this is in the perfect moment, because we had some little problems because he crashed in the morning, but anyway, we are super happy with this pole position.